Hi, with Julian on a brown note and Dutton's disaster in Dunkley. I put up a bit last week about how Dutton was the most unelectable opposition leader since Mark Latham in a 20-year period in Australia. And after the recent by-election in Dunkley, I think we can see that that is actually the case. Not one to say I told you so. Told us so. Of course he lost. No one's going to vote for this man. No one's going to vote for this authoritarian right-wing dictator. I mean, I've put other pieces on about how the populist right can't admit it's them the public are rejecting, because the people at Sky News and in the Murdoch press can't admit it's them. That's the reason why the Liberal Party keep losing. But it's them. And, you know, if people say, oh, it's already a Liberal seat. Okay, so in the midterm, between two elections, the incumbent government has a swing against it every single time, because they're the people in power who have the public upset always with what they're doing to a degree, and the people that support them have no reason to really go out there and say anything. So there's always a swing against the incumbent government. 3.9% is a normal swing. It's not a normal swing when you've had multiple interest rate rises, cost of living crisis, and the catastrophic no vote, as I said in the last bit. But it's also the personality of the man, the toxic potato-ness of him, and the fact that he stands for nothing. So he's taken this, like the Liberals in Australia take everything from the populist right in America. Regardless of whether it fits here, they just, they make up there's a war on Christmas every Christmas, and everyone else looks at them going, are you mad? So he's gone for the I'm going to do the Republican thing of opposing every single thing that Labour stand for, and Anthony Albanese's been very clever in getting him to force him to support the tax breaks, which is genius. But they're not standing for any policies, and they're saying already we're not going to tell you our policies until the next election, and the public are going, get bent. And this is the high point for Dutton. This is like the highest level of appreciation he will get from the public is now. And just at the point, like all of us in Labour are going, keep doing what you're doing, because it's brilliant for us. And just at the point where he really needs to mend bridges with a huge chunk of his party that aren't really anti-climate change, the teal vote, he's gone nuclear. Like the dumbest thing. I mean, the fact that he was in power for 10 years and didn't press for nuclear energy hardly at all. Apparently the Liberals only do that when they're in opposition. But now he's gone nuclear. And it's because that whole chunk of the Liberal Party are ideologically opposed to renewable energy. So they'll hitch their bandwagon to absolutely anything that isn't renewable. And there are reasons for that. They regard renewable energy as left-wing. They regard climate science as left-wing because they don't understand what science is. And they regard science as left-wing because it gives them answers that they don't want, because they represent a very serious cabal of fossil fuel interests. But the fossil fuel companies know that climate change is real. The people in the Liberal Party aren't smart enough, most of them, to know that. They just believe that science is left-wing because it doesn't give them the answers that they want. I mean, the Australian people have never been sold on nuclear energy. The only people that are sold on it are people that really hate sun, sea and wind power from an ideological perspective. They're listening to 2GB or reading the Murdoch press, and they genuinely hate renewable energy. I hope you can't hear that noise downstairs. It's going to cost the UK something like 132 billion and more than a century to clear up the nuclear mess it's got. Look at Fukushima and Chernobyl. There's no successful clearing up of the mess made by nuclear power, even if it doesn't end up in catastrophe. And it's just not happening in Australia. You know, there's the largest uninhabited probably continent on Earth other than Antarctica. The amount of sun we've got, the amount of wind and sea we've got, there's a very obvious pointer here, isn't there? But he's going after nuclear energy to appeal to a narrow sliver of the electorate, who are the ones that read the populist press. All of the Liberal voters who are teal independent voters, they don't want to hear about nuclear power at all. And the latest polls, I said, he's going down. Like, this is the highest point. We're out from an election. We've just had a terrible 18-month period for Anthony Albanese in many ways, although not having Scott Morrison's complete screw-ups every week has been incredibly refreshing, and I'm sure a lot of the public are really keen on that. But the latest polling in, an online poll taken on from Friday to Sunday, shows Labour would be in a minority government, and this is, you know, a long way out from the government. Anthony Albanese's personal standing has begun to recover, and he's more trusted than Peter Dutton despite his broken promise on tax cuts, according to a new poll which suggests the government has arrested its declining fortunes. The latest, the Australian Financial Review Freshwater Strategy poll, which came out I think like yesterday, shows Labour's electoral support remains at pre-election levels, but Albanese's rating as preferred Prime Minister increased by 5 percentage points, and Dutton's went down by 4 percentage points. This is a long way out from the election. There's no way that Dutton is winning the next election.